Today, I'm talking to Anthony about different things concerning our work, identities, careers, processes, empowerment. And as I said before, my name is Sanni Est. I am a singer, producer. I'm also the curator and initiator of Empower Festival, which is another trans feminist festival that happened in Berlin in 2018 and 2019. Yeah, maybe would you like to introduce yourself, please?
My name is Anthony Hüseyin. I'm mainly a singer-songwriter. And since 2013, I consider myself as performance artist as well and working interdisciplinary. And since the last 2 years, I've been working as a curator as well. In Rotterdam, I started and built my own event, Queer Performance Art Evening, where I mostly curate queer BIPOC performers. And it's been 2 years that I'm in Berlin. And before that, I was in like 10 years in Rotterdam. Just, singing and teaching and curating.
And Anthony was one of the artists that performed at Empower last year. And also this year, they did a performance for our Empower sessions, which are online streaming events, concerts, actually. All right, so I think I'm just going to start. And we had a previous meeting last week where we were talking about what are the focuses of our works right now. Also, both of us got a scholarship from Music Board Berlin to produce new albums. So both of us are working on a new album each. And you were telling me that this is your fourth studio album. Am I right?
Third studio album.
Third.
But in between singer. But in between there are singles, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And you were telling me about how how you have a very classical background as a singer, and how you are deconstructing your singing style, but also composing and genre in general, and that is strongly related to your own personal journey, as a queer person. Would you like to tell us something about that, please?
Sure. Well, I think that especially after moving to Berlin, this deconstructing and the decolonizing my own identity that involves my art and creation and music as well, it started very intensely, consciously 2 years ago, by also living here and being part of such a community. But before that, it's somehow the cities that you're born and the society that you grow up with and everything that is just imposed to and that is constructed in you, just like it even shapes your dreams, of course. And in that sense, that it feels like the more I somehow without fear discover myself and my every part of my identity, including my gender and sexual identity, the more I got actually, close to that. And my work got shaped somehow in that sense as well. For example, I started with classical singing in Istanbul. I was studying, I have a bachelor and a master on that. And in the master, I realized that it's classical. I'm writing my own music. I can't improvise. I want to improvise. I want to just break this and I want to explore different sounds. And that brought me to jazz. So in my master, already in Istanbul, I started to have private lessons, and then just there was this restlessness of I just want to do what I want to do, but I just didn't know what it was, basically. I just had to get out of it. And then I started to have jazz singing and jazz composition and arrangement classes, and then I finished the classical master, and I knew that I was not going to be an opera singer because it is. Now I realize why, but back then I was it's Baroque music in Turkey, Baroque music, I don't know, I have to go to France, and that was also that reason. And then I moved to Rotterdam to study jazz singing. I did my second master there on jazz vocals and performances. So, but basically it's I now realize in the last 2 years, like I've been just performing for a cis normative white audience. I've been making my albums just like towards that. Like my first album is like combination of Turkish and jazz. That is just like outcome of my second master. And that was like, now I'm just thinking part of it, of course I love jazz, but part of it also like, let's make the white audience to be able to listen Turkish music, like basically kind of diminishing in a way, not diminishing, but kind of putting in a more accessible or consumable way by white audience, and having the Turkish folk music and then mixing with jazz somehow. Like this is, I think, one of the reasons probably why I did, because now I realize my all need and desire was just to be fully who I am, and just feel part of that community and feel accepted, especially firstly just by myself. That was my first album that like kind of shaped with it. And but while I was studying at the conservatory as well, like I think I had the most racist teacher ever, that and sexist as well. And she's such a diva in the Netherlands in the jazz scene. Like I was improvising, for example, and she would say, "Oh, you're improvising too female. Like listen to more male singers." Like back then, I didn't understand how fucked up that was, but I knew it felt like it's something like wrong. But and then later on, I was like, "Oh, what a sexist bitch! Oh my god."
Would you say she was like the first time that you felt restricted to very like cisgender normative no like ways of singing, or have you felt that before, even if indirectly through classical? Because I mean, I did conservatory. I didn't go to college with music, but I also did like 6 years of conservatory during my teenage, and I started as a kid, like I think I was 12. And before, for those of you who are not familiar with, I don't know, classical music singing, the voices are divided between your, like, according to your voice register, and they're very like cis normative. So there are the female voice categories, which are like soprano, alt, contralt, I don't know how to say in English, and the male voices like tenor, bass, etc. And so when I started as a kid, I would sing the soprano part, which is a female voice register. And then during my teenage, my voice changed. Oh yeah, I'm trans. So I was assigned male at birth. So growing up, I wasn't aware that I was trans, and I was not doing any hormone therapy whatsoever. So my voice went to also like to a more male vocal register, which meant I could only sing male parts of music, which was for me as a trans person, as a trans woman, already very triggering. So I'm wondering if for you, even though, yeah, like you identify as non-binary, and you are also telling us how that specific teacher was like super sexist, but before that, did you feel in any way restricted by classical singing like categories or techniques?
I think in a way you are always restricted, like directly or indirectly, like in your face or behind you or subconsciously or unconsciously. It's just there. Basically, if you are not in touch with that part of you, and if you're not awake, it's just you're always driven by this restrictions, and then you just follow. I'm from like southeast of Turkey, and where the masculinity is just like leading the entire city, and I have like 6 other brothers, and in my hometown singing is like such a tradition, and it is also, there's a certain way of singing. Like my hometown is famous with singing and male high tenor singing, and I was like trying to do that, but I never, like, it was just never, it never felt like click, it's for me. Like I would sing now as I am, but back then it just, I don't know, it felt so weird. And then that is the same in the classical singing. Then, you know, in tradition it's a problem, in classical it is a problem as well, because I was just like singing some Don Giovanni and this and that, and now also the more I actually got into back to opera, because I want to write my queer opera, and then the more I'm like how racist and sexist and phobic is opera right now. Like I'm just like focusing on Carmen, and written by Bizet, and it is just so racial profiling and so misogynist. And then this jealousy, Jose gets jealous and then kills Carmen. And it's written by Bizet, who is just like completely white, and then just like giving this story to this gypsy, people, how they, love and live. And it's just incredible that it is just always there. And then that restlessness is always there if you are actually trying to somehow reach to who you are. And in that voice matter, totally, totally. I can't believe that. How can't I just listen and transcribe and learn Ella Fitzgerald? That's such a bullshit.
Yeah, but then you are also saying how your artistic outlet and also your audience are gradually changing throughout your work.
Right.
So how would you say that it's more like that your work is directed to more now? Like, which audience do you think that resonates more to your current work, and how is it different than it was before?
I think that has a little bit of a beginning. Like in 2013, with the Gezi Park protests in Istanbul, I don't know if you remember, that I discovered the power of music that I can actually use with my activism. And I wrote a song, made a video, and it got viral during that period. And there I just, there was something just starting. And from there on, the queer part of me, the queer part of me that just started to reflect and experience and connect and write and create more in that direction. But it was not, I never thought of there's a queer audience and now I should actually write a queer music. It was just an urge. And then I discovered that weapon in me that I'm actually I'm a songwriter, and then I can write a song, because in certain matters that, for example, I received hundreds of emails from people that I don't know during the protest, Gezi Park protest, that they're like, we were thinking, and your song was like a new oxygen for us. And I would I still have goosebumps, and that was just I was like, oh, actually, so there's that. And then from there on, I was like, okay, but what is my problem? And then my problem was that my sexual identity, not a problem, but if you think of in a bigger concept like family, society, then it becomes a problem. And then I started to write a song. I wrote a song and made a video about a queer person who was murdered by his father, coming from same hometown, we are from the same hometown. Ahmed Yildiz, his name is. And there I think it started, and then there I realized the power of also having all this LGBTQI plus audience behind me, with me, ahead of me, and then being with somehow them. And then that just started to somehow feel and grow. Okay, this is the people that I feel actually that's safest. So when I feel safe, I can be super creative. And if I feel safe with the audience that I'm performing with, I think we can do magic together. So
yeah. And healing.
Exactly. Yes.
How's that? I mean, it's quite obvious, I think, but how would you say that? How much healing do you get from the resonance between your work and your audience, or your own, with yourself, your creative process? What would you say that were oh, these specific things had a very healing effect on me?
Healing is, it sounds very a positive word. It is in a way in the end a positive word, but it is such a bumpy way.
It hurts to grow
so much. Basically, you just dig in your own wound to just okay, this part, inflammation. This teacher, father, the toxic masculinity, the patriarchy, this and that, and then you just realize the internalized part of it godly. You're like, oh my God, I have this also. Now the outside is over, and now I have it also towards myself,
Like
and
I'm an asshole.
I am
Like
an asshole, and then I have to just like cut part of myself, like kill my darlings. So it is a very painful. It's been a very painful path, but I would say it's also very, of course, liberating, and it just creates new space. And with it, I think it started with my second album, which has nothing to do with jazz. I mean, in some parts you might hear that, but it's completely electronic, like pop singer-songwriter album. That I fell in love with a guy, and he is from Berlin. I think now he lives somewhere else. Thank God. And I fell in love with him, and then it somehow didn't go to the direction that I and my projections and my patterns and my past desired. So now I can talk like this, but back then I was blaming him for not loving me. So, and but that was my first openly actually queer album. So I called all the time he in my songs,
yeah.
and it's entirely in English because I fell in love in English. My first album is mostly in Turkish, so I experienced it in English, so I wrote it in English. And
Also, you have music videos where it's clear you're talking about a man, and
definitely,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, in the second video, it's rather more like, let's say, like an looks more like non-binary. It has a like a box in the head. I don't know if you saw that one.
Which one?
I'm falling in love.
No, I haven't seen this one.
No, there I create my own lover, but it has like a box on it, and then I just sew my like a lip and the eye, and then start to see me, and then I try to make this person love me. But anyway, so yeah, I think this healing part started in 2015, and then in that period I started to write songs while I was suffering, basically like Adele, but I have no money, and then and yeah. And then I realized that I registered that part of my life with songs, and then I chose 8 songs. It's like chronologically, like Netflix. You just listen to our story, basically, but not visually. But with the videos, I just tell. I think that's how it started. But now, for example, when I released this album in 2017, where I fully believe in these songs and the story. But now when I perform it, I'm like, I also share with the audience. I'm like, how did I expect all of this from one person? Like, Jesus, Anthony.
Yeah.
So it's just, you realize like, okay, yes, you love this person, but part of it also projection. So basically, while I was decolonizing and deconstructing my entire identity, also I realized like, fuck, now it's about like love. I need to deconstruct that too. The romance, like how do we love, and how actually internalized monogamy and the normativity, this normative love, and the love songs of it, which I still love my songs. It's like,
Yeah.
part of me, but that was part of the healing too. And I think the Berlin, the society, the community that I am part of it, is also very much helping to heal, like meeting people like you, being here, having this festival, performing at the Empower, being part of the House of Living Colors, performing with them. It was just such a completely different universe opened in me, and then I was like, oh, I belong here.
That's really nice to hear, though,
Yeah.
because I've been here for 13 years, and yeah, I think, well, community, I think it's a it's a topic in itself.
I said it's a bumpy way,
Yeah, it's
bumpy
very
road. It is like super, yeah.
No, I mean, it's, yeah, like, can live without him, can live with them, like this kind of thing. Obviously, we need our communities. I mean, there are many things that you're talking about now that I resonate with also in my creative process. I only have one studio album that's out there, and it's called War in Her, which is it's a word play basically with the family name of the guy that broke my heart, which was Warriner. Yeah. So I did that, and it's 10 songs. I get what you're talking about, like that we catch ourselves having like projections and expectations that we feel like we should always question them and try to deconstruct ourselves and deconstruct also our desires. Like in this case, it was like the fact that I chose him was also that because he's such like a book example of a white European cis straight dude. Like he's just so
Always the same story.
Jesus. And after that, it just came to realize like, oh, I only tried having relationships with white men. So jokes on me for that, like in a way. Like of course I don't wanna, as a person of color and as a trans woman, I don't wanna have to like force myself into only wanting to navigate marginalized spaces and also apply to my career. I don't want to be like, the reason why I started doing Empower Festival is because normally when you are an underground artist or a marginalized identity, you're only invited to equivalent events and equivalent options. Like you have to perform somewhere in the cellar, and there is no technical, there is nothing for you, there's no money, there's no structure. And so I was really really fed up with that. But circling back to my album and like to the creative process and how, yeah, besides the topic of the album being that failed relationship that I had, it's also my vocal performance, like so during the classical music education, I was identifying as a gay boy, so I was singing like in the male registers. And when I came to Berlin, I stopped singing because that's when I realized I was 18, and that's when I realized I was full on like a woman, and I wanted to transition, and I knew it would take time, and I knew it was going to be painful. And because of my education, I thought I could never sing as a trans woman because my voice, like, it doesn't completely change. Like, you can change the way you use it, but you don't really change like the physical structure of your throat, basically. So I was really, really, really depressed for that. I really killed the singer in me for like 8 years. I didn't sing because I thought I was gonna make a fool of myself because every reference that I had of trans performers were in comedy. And I didn't want to be a joke. And they were there as the joke. They were not like. So that was really disheartening and took me a long time to get out of there. But even in my first album, I was very like over hyper aware of which notes I'm singing. Like, is it in the male or is it in the female register? So I literally like limited myself, like as if I put like a threshold. You cannot go deeper than that. Like I couldn't like go down. I mean, obviously I'm proud of the fact that, I put myself out there and that I did an album without money and with all the pain and everything. But now, in my second album, I'm doing the not the complete opposite, but I am exploring other, not just like voice registers, but also like techniques and, embracing much more also my Brazilian roots, like my northeastern Brazilian roots, which I grew up playing the drums, like African Brazilian drums. And I've always wanted to mix them with vocals, like experimental vocals and electronics. And I didn't have the means to do that in the first album. And yeah, so it took me more time. Now that I have this scholarship, I was able to pay musicians and people who play like proper drums, and I'm doing that. So it's also like
Super healing, isn't it? Like
it's
also.
healing. It's painful. I mean, yeah, like I did have a few panic attacks. It's always like, oh, I'm gonna do a little merch here. I'm gonna do an event, like a pre-listening event in September for this album. So where I'm gonna like talk about the whole process and everything. Yeah, it's called photophobia, which is this. It's a medical condition when you are hypersensitive to light. So when you cannot like look into the direct sun, for example, or in general light. So I use it as a wordplay to like, because photo means light and phobia means rejection or fear. It's a wordplay with me rejecting, or like my decolonizing process being like the rejection of Eurocentric, so white, light notions of gender performativity and vocal performance. Obviously, I'm not rejecting everything that I learned at the conservatory. I'm not rejecting everything that is Eurocentric because then I couldn't even use a computer, I guess. But I am um, doing that in the lyrics and in the vocal performance, also in the people that I involved in the project, and yeah, I'm doing that
That's amazing.
right
That
now.
sounds actually like it's so, in a way, it's so similar. Like my second album is the lucky one, where actually I felt like, oh, I'm so close to my identity, and you are just doing that like all around with the percussions as well and the drums.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's part of the healing as well. I guess. I mean, it helps a lot to heal, I guess, as well, right?
Yeah.
But would you now? I'm gonna
Sure.
ask
Ask me.
questions.
Ask me questions.
So you spent 13 years in the city.
Yeah.
God, wow.
Yeah, I have.
And I mean, I adore you. I respect you a lot, and also for what you have achieved. Really, seriously. And but how do you feel now, like at this very moment? Because you come along like a very long way, run a festival in Berlin, and then get all the fundings that you are doing right now. Um, yeah, and like established artist, musician, performer, and a curator. Like, how do you feel right now in Berlin in these conditions?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about money before as well.
Yes.
Like, so I come from a poor family and I could never be financially supported by them. So that meant that everything, also, my father is a musician, like a street musician in Brazil. And like most Brazilian fathers, he never took care of me. Like, they split when I was 2, and he never paid one single bill of my life. So I had also that inheritance where my mom told me all the time, like, music is a hobby. Like, look at your father. That was also very hard. It kind of put in my mind that everything that I do has to be profitable. Like, I have to be able to pay my rent, because if I don't, nobody else is going to do it. I don't think this is a solely bad thing, because I see also, like, I think if I had more time or more, security, like financial security, maybe I would hustle less. So the reason now that I am a curator or an event producer or a performer, it's because I am constantly looking for chances to pay my bills. So if I would only sing, yeah, I was a bartender for 6 years, and trying to combine that lifestyle with like being a creative person is it's kind of hard. I mean, it's good when you're starting, because you don't have events to attend to, you don't have deadlines, you don't have anything. So that's also strategically I chose being a bartender, because it's an informal sort of job that you don't work like 40 hours a week, and you're not in an office and you sell your soul completely to a company. I don't mean that I never did an office job, so if I'm prejudging, yeah, but it didn't fit me. And so I did that for 6 years. And then when I started seeing how much money Germany has, like, I was completely unaware, because I was just, I was so used to like surviving only, like earning 10 hours, 10 euro an hour, working 3 shifts a week, and that's it. Like, this is the most you can have as a poor artist. And then I was like, oh, like, I can be actually paid to be like an artist. Like, I can do things. So I think I'm very, also because I am very transdisciplinary in everything that I do. Like, when I compose an album, I also write a script for a film immediately, and I want to release it with different music videos. My next album is supposed to be a VR game in the end. I'm not talking too much about it because I don't have the money for it yet, but
You will get it.
yeah, it will be done eventually. But I always like to incorporate different media and different ways of expression through music. I'm a daydreamer, like, I'm that person who is in the U-Bahn and doesn't see anything because I'm just like somewhere else. So that helped me. And then I just figured out I had to be able to translate my ideas and my concepts into applications. And that's when actually one of the festival founders, Kiva, she was like the person who offered me help, and she wrote the first application with me. And from there, I started like, having this mindset. Like, if I have a project, if I have an idea, I should be paid for that. you know? Um, so yeah, this, how do I feel? It's not so long though that I've been doing that. It's been only 2 years that I quit my bar job. So I'm still doing the most, very much so. Like, I'm curating different things, I'm performing in different media, I'm acting in movies, I am, producing films, I'm giving workshops, I'm doing so many DJ sets, I'm also DJ. So I do whatever I need to pay my bills, but I definitely feel overworked, and I feel like, I don't know, the city is like shifting very quickly. I don't know how many of you here are here longer than 5 years, but because yeah, there's like so many people coming all the time, and mostly queer creative people from first world countries that have first world expectations and also first world experiences, and so there is more competition, I feel, which is not a bad thing in itself, but this whole like community feel here is like, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard, like, especially when you put in so much work to be able to pay other queer BIPOC artists, and the expectations they have is that you offer, like, like a white institutional working conditions, and pay. And obviously I don't want to go to each event that I'm invited to and be like, oh my god, this was like the best gig of my life, thank you. No, but there are some people who are just a bit too individualistic, I would say. So I think Berlin is a city that attracts a lot of narcissists.
Or they become narcissist here. They discover their narcissist part here.
I don't know. I don't know though. Also, I don't demonize narcissists. I think, like, as a performing artist, it's
You have to partly a little
you're
bit. no?
kind of in love with yourself.
Yeah, and
That's like
and hate yourself at the same
and hate
time.
yourself at the same time.
Yes.
It's just like, yeah, sometimes I wish there was like more, I don't know. It's kind of,
Compassion and
yeah,
less performativity on supporting and loving each other, like more real
actual.
actual connection, compassion, and like less fear and more trust. This is,
Yeah.
I guess, everywhere we need that. But I feel, for example, I actually, one of the biggest reasons that I moved to Berlin, like I was teaching in the conservatory where I graduated. I did my master for 7 years. Basically, I had a great job, like, and then in the meantime, I was performing, and I was not even working like full time in Rotterdam, maybe 2 days a week, like giving singing lessons to the jazz singers that they write their own music, doing like study coaching and like thesis supervising. But then after my contract finished, and then I was like, and I realized that I was like, God, I have to get out of here, and I always wanted to live in Berlin. And then I just found a job like every romantic Berlin dreamer in a cafe. And then the next day I was a baker. So like from earning 60 euros an hour, like every singing lesson that I was giving at the conservatory, to I was just like, in 2 weeks I just like, subletted my place in Rotterdam, and then found a room because I have a friend here and she was working in a cafe. She was like, you're a great cook and we need a baker, come and just spend the summer here. And I was like, sure. I had like 1 day of training, and then the next day I was just like baking all day long. It's it's insane. But I loved it. I loved every bit of it. But it's also ending now. I'm saying goodbye, and I just want to go back to a little bit more to teaching, because I think the physical work is like, I'm almost 38. I know I look younger, but I'm 38. And it's getting hard. Like, really just like do this job is just pretty much hard. And in Berlin, like, everybody's somehow just doing that. And I had this like 2 years of romantic Berlin life where I'm like, okay, no more institutions. I'm just gonna bake and make my music and just like deconstruct the shit out of myself and then see what comes out. And then this is how it has been going on. And then if we talk about the community, that I met people, like some amazing people, but also some awful people. I was like, oh my God, like why? And then I just then again, I realized, okay, I understand. So you internalize the shit. So the life is heavy, and you just have to be so cruel to survive. Like,
Also trauma, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a community of a bunch of traumatized people, like people who left their lands, who have suffered structural discrimination everywhere they have been.
Mhm.
I totally understand that. And also, like, we should never forget that even though we have some things in common, like we're people of color, we're queer, we're immigrants, but like from where? How did you grow up? Like,
Yeah.
what is your culture? How do you communicate? What is your first language?
What's your
What do you.
privilege? Also, like,
Yeah.
you can be that, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to also try to connect to people just because you have similar discrimination
Yeah,
experiences.
and then your expectation is also like, oh, we come from the same place or same this and that, like, and then we would probably be the same or react the same, and that's not so different than Germans expecting all the Turks to be the same, right? Because it's just the same thing. Because you're like, oh, if you're from Turkey, then it's just the same thing, or from Brazil. So I also learned how not to look at the queer community as like the angel community or whatever, that just like my constructed expectations from each other. But I also don't want to approach to anyone like with a lot of suspicion. I just want to approach with an open heart. But I see that we all have, like, I think not only queer community, we all have wounds. And at the majority, the white cis heteronormative community has such a big problem that just actually also it becomes the source of those wounds as well. Our parents and our, I don't know, coworkers or this and that. But lately I'm like, oh God, we need like so much healing. Like, I'm also so done with, like, you are this, I'm this, you are that, you are this, I'm non-binary, and you are this, and you are more privileged and I'm less privileged. Yes, sure, we need this now. I acknowledge that, and I needed that too, and I need that too. But I'm like, how do we move from this? Like, how are we gonna, are we ever going to heal, like, and live in, I don't also consider peace just like one piece of cloud, but of course it is like this. But I really am asking you too as well, like, what do we have in concept on just like living together? I am hurt all the time, but also I realized that started to, like, I'm like, you fucking white bitch, or you white person, you cis person, you that person, or I don't know, you, like, I'm like, I just like, we are constantly angry and looking for reason to blame, and then like just and it is right, especially, I mean, imagine if you are like a trans black person living in this community, like what you are going through. But how do we, I just keep asking this question to myself, like, how do we move from this together? Like, how are we going to heal? Like, how are we going to do this?
I well, I think we can only work on ourselves. Like, we can also try, like, deconstruct also the expectations we have from community and the expectations we have in general from living together. Yeah, I totally hear you, but I don't know.
No, there's probably no answer, or of course,
For everyone,
and
yeah.
and we all have to just like do our bests, and then as Rumi says, that like if you want the world to be changed, then be the change, and then that's it. This is the best we can do, I guess. But at least I think what I wanted to say, by exaggerating, that this, what we say is just so important, like every word that we are talking to each other, and it just affects on our daily life so much.
Yeah.
And we just like throw it just like this, but it stays.
Yeah.
We had it even,
Yeah.
it stays. And I wish, like, I mean, for example, the event like this, and like us, and creating and doing stuff, and you coming here supporting this, it is part of the whole healing process. And we are, of course, healing all together. But I probably rather talk too much now.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm wondering, you're tired.
I'm done with myself.
Oh shit! Because I was gonna ask you about your next album though. How is this? Yeah, what is it about? Do you have like one over like yeah, like one theme, like the other one you had like a separation or a relationship with this guy, the lucky one. And this next one, what language is it in? What are the topics, and how especially how is the album relating to your current personal and professional stage?
It is the album that the concept that I applied to Music Board Berlin, and it got supported luckily. And so I'm not gonna tell the name because it is very stealable. And but it is focusing on this today, this part of me, that the non-binary of me. I actually even don't like using non-binary, but I just use it for this sake of that we all know what it is, and I'm done with it. But I would more say, I don't know, maybe gender expanding, because I also am afraid of falling into another binary when I say non-binary. And also like, you know, I'm not skinny and white and vegan. No, I'm kidding. Just like because non-binaries has like certain look, right? So like, or androgynous, looks more androgynous. It was so funny. Like short, quickly, like a little anecdote. I was in a residency last year in Betonest, like in Stolpe, and there was Betonest. It's a artist residency place in Stolpe, somewhere close to Poland. It's a queer artist residency, and then there was. I have also a problem with white feminism, and who doesn't? And and then there was this. So I was the only. I want to call myself now from that approach cis passing person and brown, and the rest was just like white and cis and lesbian, and maybe there was actually one trans person. So the rest was just like white and.
Oh, you mean like you're the only like male presenting person?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then there was this event that I organized. There was this runway thing, and then there was this photographer from States, and she was like making everyone's portraits, and then I was just wearing something like this, and you can see that I have chest hair. Like she was just, it was my turn, and then she was like, "Oh, chest hair," and she didn't make my picture. Like she just like moved to the next one.
In your own event.
Yes, like in.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other trans person was like a photographer. The next day, like she was like, "We are having a photo session," and then I was like, "Yes." So it was very healing too. But what I want to say that like this again, falling into the binary of like having the image of non-binary, you know, like therefore maybe I prefer to. I still use he. Because I was bullied that I was not looking boyish enough when I was, you know, like in primary school, and that's not what they decide. And like you know, that's why I just still claim that part of me, not because I love to call he, just like fuck up that person, that part as well. That I'm non-binary, but I still use he. Deal with it. So anyway, so in this album that. I realized that I have been just like my first album was just like serving mostly to the wide audience with my Turkish jazz album, and then the lucky one was just like much closer to me. But I thought the only option was being gay and falling in love with a cis gay guy, white, always with white, falling in love with white men, and in this album, we don't do it.
Are you past that phase yet?
Yes. Yes,
great.
I am
Good
like,
on you.
I'm like really. I'm just like
Me too.
Purposely,
You know.
like when I'm on Tinder, I'm just like swiping like more to the right to every POC and Asian like person, like just to fuck up also with Tinder, because then I get more offers on that, right? Based on that algorithm. Please do it as well, so then we have like less white offers. And the algorithm, no, but then the algorithm supports more POC and Asian then, you know, like just like playing with that. So, but
yeah, but
you do you. The
now
album.
coming back to the album, yeah.
Yes. So I realized that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That I am focusing on one of our queer idols. Cheers, from Turkey, and I'm covering 2 songs of his. And one of the songs are already like being so difficult to get the song, but I'm on it. And the rest is my compositions that I have been writing for years, but I have never played for anyone, and it's in Turkish. And I realized that because this is the most like vulnerable and intimate part of me, and I never played to and showed to anyone. And in that album, I'm just like recording all of them,
Okay.
and maybe, and kind of connecting with that idol and just like exploring my own identity with his music, with my music, and then just like voila,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm really looking
It's
forward
completely
to.
electronic. It's gonna be. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Where have you been? What have you done? Look into my eyes. Tell me what's wrong. You smell so different. Your touch is not the same. I know there is someone you want more. I don't know who you are anymore. You can't have him anymore. I love you, but I simply can't. I don't want you anymore. I don't know who you are anymore. You can't have him anymore. I love you, but I simply can't. I don't want you anymore. Where have you been? What have you done? Look into my eyes. Tell me what's wrong. You smell so different. Your touch is not the same.